It was just a small city, and
Not important enough to have a large organization.
Oh, I think so.
Oh.
During our time, certainly.
no.
Yes.
Someone
My
told me
father
that,
was an alderman.
Oh yes, they had
Yeah.
they had 7 wards.
who were some of the influential politicians?
Well, I had no Childs,
Yes,
There's
I
no
see.
child.
Yes.
Charlie Hatfield.
Yes. Yes.
and
Let's say, well,
Don Gibbs, and the last one,
well,
Donald Gibbs, I would say, was very influential for
that's
years.
that's in our time. That's
Yeah, it's
you're talking about way back.
The Highland Drugs Fair.
Someone was, I don't know whether we should put this on tape or not, but someone was telling me that the man who owned the Hubbard Drug Store was a very influential figure in Newton politics. That was quite recently, I suppose.
That's
that is Wilfred Shagman, and he did
Yes.
not found the drugstore.
No.
The drugstore was founded by a man in the name of Hubbard
Yes.
in my boyhood. And Wilfred Shagman bought it out, and I have a high respect for Wilfred. He could get around. He built the place up. He was, I don't know whether he was chairman of the board of pharmacy, but I think he was president of the
Yeah.
pharmaceutical school here,
Yeah.
School of Pharmacy in Massachusetts. And Wilfred was a very influential and able little Frenchman.
Yes.
And I never had a great deal to do with him, but he and I would always get along all right together, and I was going into the Lincoln Day dinner with him, and I saw him 2 days before. I stepped in there to make arrangements about getting together. We were going in together, and Wilfred died
Yes.
the next day.
Yes, I recall.
Yes, very
Right.
suddenly.
Right.
So I don't know why you shouldn't mention him, because I think he was a.
No, I didn't mean that he was
Yeah.
dishonest. I didn't mean that at all.
He was quite
Right.
behind the scenes.
But that's what I mean.
Yes, he was
You're right.
behind the
That-
scenes man.
That he was an influential man.
It
Yeah,
was.
that's
Oh,
right.
And the
it was.
ordinary person did not quite realize, probably, that he
There
had
were a
that
few
influence.
that thoroughly disliked him.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I see. Right.
Gene.
Did the Weeks family have a large political influence in the city?
Oh yes.
Yes. How was that expressed?
And all kinds of. You go ahead, Dave.
I don't know.
Civic matters,
Yes.
good government.
The two
Sinclair
generations-
built the high school, built the new city hall, didn't he?
Yes, I guess
Yes,
so.
he built the new city hall.
But John W., of course, was mayor and so forth before that.
Yes, and secretary
And then he
of
was,
War,
what, secretary?
senator, and so forth. And he was quite as important as Mr. Saltonstall.
Yes.
And much the same image.
Right. So the influence was simply through respect and friendship and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Things have changed.
That's a good deal of way. That's the way Newton was run in my
In those
father's
days.
time.
Right.
It really was.
In our earlier days in this country, except perhaps in some of the big cities, King had destroyed earlier, people knew personally the ones who represented them in the legislature and around.
Mm.
It was a very personal appraisal. And consequently, or in those days, it wasn't a question of glamour
Yeah.
and speeches and posing this way as being in favor of that and against this and a friend of this and a friend of that and not a friend of something else. That sort of thing was not in the thing. The arguments were intellectual arguments usually. Should we build a road, or should we move ahead in the sewage system, or what should we do? Now, I don't say that politics wasn't beginning to creep into it, but we didn't have a mess of politics. Now, I think the great breakdown in this political situation, I think it has broken down greatly in quality of our legislative leadership. The big breakdown came perhaps in 1912 when we changed the method of electing United States senators.
What was the social situation? Was there large discrepancies in were there extremes in Newton of poor people and wealthy people? As I recall, there wasn't.
I don't think so. Newton
Yeah,
was not
right.
particularly wealthy.
That's right.
That isn't the thing. Most
Right.
of these people that have gotten ahead have simply saved and accumulated.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And done business in
Right.
Boston, and it's gone along, and these things have happened over the course of years. No, as I remember, Newton High School and the Newton schools here, one kid didn't mean any different to us
Yes.
than another.
Right.
There weren't slums in
Yes.
Newton. Nonantima always was considered a slum district.
Why was that?
Goodness. Well, because it was a poorer district.
I see. Who
But-
would live
but it
there
wasn't-
now?
It wasn't a slum
Well, it wasn't
district
a
at
slum
all,
district. Right,
in
right.
the modern sense of the
right,
word.
Right. Well, you can even see that now. There are trees, and it must have been a rather semi-rural.
It's called the Garden City. We now are going to rename it the Treeless City.
Right. It's too bad. isn't it?
And as soon as we run out of worms, well, then the birds
Yes.
will have to be all ground fowl
It's very
who
sad.
can eat worms on
Right.
the ground
Right.
instead of on the trees.
Right.
Oh, we're going mad on this
Right.
ecology bits all of a sudden. Now, a lot of people have been interested in ecology for a good many years, you know.
That's
Great
right.
gifts and so forth.
Right.
Baxter Parks and
Right.
the Yosemites and Roosevelt and,
Right, of course.
and Muir and
That's right.
I mean, and you go down the line here, just thousands of them, and many reservations. The Burr Park out here, the Burr families.
Homestead.
Yes,
Right.
sure.
Right.
But now it's become a good political racket.
Yes. No, I was just talking about that in class today.
Yeah.
How old the movement, the ecology movement was in this country.
Yes.
Right.
No, I'm not saying that things were perfect. I used to, my chief, Mr. Kendall, Henry Kendall, was the director of Brown Brothers, and every once in a while he was chairman of the board, and president would come down, perhaps we'd have lunch together, and I always nagged them about what they were going to do about the smell in the river in Gorham.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of other people. Interest in ecology goes way back, active interest. I mean, putting money into different situations way back of all this rumpus.
Right.
The rumpus is
Right.
What about local production? Were there certain Newton-produced goods that everyone
yes,
bought?
yes.
Not in this city very much, you know, only a few, because it was a residential city,
Yeah.
not a mill city.
It was a bedroom for Boston, but there were some important
There were
things,
some.
and I want to mention 2 or 3 of them. There was the knitting company down there.
Silver Lake.
It's a Silver Lake Cordage Company.
Yeah.
What did Mayor Lockwood, the knitting company down
Band, I don't know, the band.
Vanter, I guess it is, Vanter Knitting Company, which is Bemis, and that's there still. And the Vanter Knitting Company, the Stanley Automobile,
And Saco Lowell. Yeah.
Saco Lowell Company, which made textile machinery,
Mhm.
the one that made the fire apparatus, fire alarm.
Something well.
Been absorbed into something else. Fire apparatus is the thing. Somebody give
Fire
you a-
alarm.
Yes, fire alarm systems all over the country. Oh dear.
I can find out. I know what you're talking about, but I can't.
Yeah,
think
they
about
were
it.
right
I
up there
can't
next to
think
Saco Lowell shops.
Right.
And then there was a company here that made rubber textile rolls across the street from the Saco Lowell shops. It was a small business, but that was quite important. There were some greenhouses in Newton. There was a man by the name of Fry down to Bemis that raised a lot of milk, and the Braben Golf Links and so forth were all Warwinnett Farm milk.
I think more.
Before the
were
Braben
they?
was started,
Were
that
they?
was Warwinnett Farm milk. And Father used to say that the reason that I was such a big boy was because all the Warwinnett Farm milk I had.
Were there any large farms around that
Oh yes.
made you farm?
Oh yes, I'm just telling you,
That's
Braben
all-
was one
That
farm.
was a farm.
Well, the Warwinnett Farm, yeah,
That-
that was his farm.
I see.
Oh yes.
When was the club made? Can you recall?
Well, let's see.
They just had their 100 and, no,
No.
oh no, wait a minute.
Just the 50th.
I see.
75th.
75th, about 1900,
Right.
and
75th.
started by Henry B. Day and some others.
Were there any theater companies in Newton?
There was yes, in a certain way. There was the West Newton Players, and a lot of us young people belonged to that and did different things. And Mary Who Hallett used to play the organ while we worked.
Well,
And
before that, up in Newton, that was in West Newton for years.
That was
and
West
years and
Newton for
years,
years.
in the old
Yeah.
Imperial.
Now, what do you think of before that?
Well, I was thinking of the Players, but that was 25 years before we ever got into it.
Well, I guess the
Yeah.
Players went before that, before the West Newton Players. They got the hall up there that's now the location of what's now the movie theater in West Newton, and that was the Players up there. Now they used to have another place. Where was their other place? I've been to shows in other places. They were a little bit inclined to give Gilbert and Sullivan and things of that sort. Did they give them in Bray Hall?
No, well, it was in West Newton. I think it was the West Newton, old West Newton Unitarian Church, I think. I don't know why I think so.
I don't know. Somebody else who find me on that.
How about Norm Beaker Park?
Now wait a minute. I don't
Yes.
know. You were asking me about theaters and
Okay.
so forth, and I was trying to answer that.
Okay.
Trying to think. Now there was a motion picture theater. Here was this one in Newton, the first one.
Mhm.
Newton Corner, I think, was the first
I
one.
think so.
And the trolley cars with their sideboards and open trolley cars used to run up and down Washington Street and Commonwealth Avenue from Lake Street up to the river, so that you could go canoeing. And they had a summer theater up there, and things to eat,
Is it
and
Norm Beaker?
dancing, and animals.
Yeah, lots of animals.
Yeah.
And that was a great picnic spot, too. That was a big,
Yes, I
your
can
Sunday
remember
school
that.
picnic
I can
was there,
remember
too.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they had a funny, good nightclub they had there, the high school age.
Oh, yeah.
What do you call it?
You mean the name of the place?
Yeah.
I was that. You see, I can remember that very well. That's not very long ago.
Oh, no, that's very,
Right,
oh,
right.
yes.
I can't
But
remember
it's always
either.
been so good. It was always so
Yes.
good.
They had a big party there every year.
Yeah.
The high school did.
Well, I mean, it was always open. It was always open sort of as a nightclub.
Oh, really?
Yes,
yeah,
for
yeah.
high school age, and no
Liquor.
no liquor
Right.
at all.
Right.
Michael used to.
Well, that's in the old church there on.
No, this is this is Norm Beaker Park.
Yes, she's right.
Oh, was that
can
so? I don't
right,
remember
right.
that.
How did people react to the depression, the prohibition here? Were there speakeasies and sneaking?
No.
Just
I don't
No.
You wasn't
I don't
found
say
with
that nobody sold any liquor here. And
Did you have any local bootleggers?
I don't know. I have no idea. I never.
You're
tasted
asking the wrong
any
man.
liquor. I never tasted any liquor till I was 35 years of age, and we never had it in the house. And
You're
I,
speaking for public.
and I
Actually-
consider it an abomination.
I never saw an intoxicated man until I was 14 years of age.
Yeah.
I never saw an intoxicated man.
Well, I think I did on Atlantic Avenue.
Yeah.
Some of these sailor derelicts staggering
I see.
around.
I never saw one. I remember the first intoxicated man I ever saw.
Yeah. Well, you would.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm on the wrong side of that.
What were you?
You were going to ask something.
oh, just about Norm Beaker Park.
Yes, I'm trying to think of the name of the dance place there, because it was a nice place, and for a good place for kids to go. I mean, it was always well taken care of, and they were all right.
That was the big annual event in the life of the high school.
No, I'm not talking about that. Yes,
No, but I mean,
yes,
from the
think
high
they
school
did.
standpoint,
I
that
think
was
they
the
did.
big event.
That's right.
I think
And they
it's
stopped in about 1963.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, well, in our early days, it was quite acceptable to our fathers and mothers. It's all
Yeah,
right to
yes,
go up there.
right,
I mean,
right,
the boys you
right.
went with were all right. Yeah, that was acceptable.
Well, Norm Beaker Park used to have a theater. They had an outdoor
Yes,
theater.
they had a
at one time,
theater,
didn't
that's
they?
right. With vaudeville acts.
And of course,
Yeah.
lots of animals.
But there wasn't any rabble, and they didn't go there like the horse racing and laneway or something of that sort. None of that sort of thing.
I turn that off just for a minute.
Cohasset and Scituate was so nice in
Yeah,
those days,
yeah.
and it took you a long time to drive down from Boston to Hull or
Yes.
Cohasset. My uncle had several hundred acres in Cohasset, and we had a smaller place in Hull. And what nice times we had, and all the Newton folks went down there.
Yeah.
And my uncle had birds of ducks of all kinds, and peacocks and horses
Yeah.
and things, which
Yeah.
were so nice, and we had such nice times down there as young people.
Right.
Yeah, our roads were all dirt.
One of the ways that young people had a good time years ago, this is Marion Fisher's day, they always canoeing in the Charles.
Oh, yeah.
My mother wouldn't allow me to because she didn't like water. I was
Yes.
afraid of it, but that was an extremely popular thing. There was a picture of it in there showing the canoes,
Yes.
and it really was a lovely place to go.
Say,
My
That's why
boy,
people
my boy goes to Noble and Greenough,
Hmm?
and he's not.
talk like the Dickens and spent all our life here in that star place.
They're one
Well-
of the old families of Newton.
Yes, I see the name everywhere.
Yes.
Right. Right.
And her number is 266-1761. I'd do anything to rouse her.
In your own personal view, what you think has just in the 100 years centennial thing, what do you think has changed most drastically in your lifetime in terms of Newton's, the Newton culture, or Newton physically or whatever?
Always turned into a sort of a boundary to Boston, as I'd say. Boundary line to Boston. It's where Boston line is only a little way from here, and the whole place has changed. There isn't anybody on this street that was here when we first moved in.
Yeah.
On C&I.
Yeah.
32.
Although Newton before was connected with Boston, it was always separated more. But now it's
Well, you'd have to look back, and I don't know whether Newton belonged to Boston. I know that Newton, Watertown, and Cambridge were one, I think. I think that's correct.
But Newton had an identity.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
More
yes.
so than now.
Right.
Oh,
It's
yes.
much more of a bedroom.
No, I can tell. I
Mhm.
can tell.
Mhm.
It had a life of its own.
Yes, very definitely.
Would it have been different than Wellesley? Was there a distinction, or was it pretty much the same type of thing as Wellesley?
I think Newton was.
In some ways.
I think perhaps Wellesley is what Newton used to be, but not
No,
entirely.
but in your childhood, were they quite a bit the same kind of life?
I mean, was Wellesley or
Yes,
or
Wellesley and Newton, were they quite a bit the same?
Wellesley was country.
Which actually was that remote.
Oh, yes, it was.
That
yes.
it was not developed.
I thought he was trying to compare the past with the present.
That's what I was trying to figure.
No, I was
Hey,
so Wellesley
No,
just barely existed.
Wellesley was a long way. It was quite a ways out
A
then.
country village.
Mhm.
Ah.
And I think it would be very wrong to say that Wellesley today is like Newton was, or vice versa, because the whole world has changed, and
Yes,
Wellesley
but-
basically.
Wellesley, I would say, is a lot faster than Newton was in those days.
Oh, yes. Oh,
the
yes.
whole world
yes.
is a
Yes,
different
right,
thing.
right.
This is the same story of telephones and the
Yes.
store here and there,
But
and
it is-
horses and all that.
But people are
Big
interested
farms,
in
yes.
running Wellesley as they used to be interested in running Newton.
Yes,
You know, I mean,
right,
good people and so forth.
right. Who would remain around. Right.
Mhm.
Well, the automobile means that they've gone away a good deal
That's
more in
right.
the summer, and are less interested in their home place. During the war here, you see, I had the biggest little farm in this part of Newton. We had about 100 turkeys, 150 hens, some sheep here, steer. We raised potatoes. We raised everything here.
Now, are you talking about World War I or World War II?
World War
Oh,
II.
You actually in
Here.
World War II?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, and the meat ration people up here couldn't get it out of their head that I was selling turkeys. I never sold a turkey in my life.
You were bootlegging turkeys.
They were sure. They keep coming down here and then passing me bulletins and different things and so forth. And I said, go home. I may give away a turkey or two, but I'm not. I'm not. There's nothing commercial here. Well, they had a hard time to believe that. And then I was on the board, and I said I wanted to keep pigs here, and I know how to do it, so there wouldn't be no objections to the neighbors.
Right.
And we had a certain amount of talk about it up there. You see, I knew the head of the boys' reform school in New Hampshire, and they had an enormous number of pigs up there. And if you do it properly, you won't have any smell from them.
Right.
And I said, I can't stand them any more than the other people. I said, just think what'll happen if we'd like to give you a permit to keep pigs here. What'll happen? And I said, I guess you're right. And I'll give up on the pigs, but I was doing to keep everything.
You did have a steer.
Yeah,
Yes.
we raised a
Buster.
steer.
Buster. Buster lived a year and a half.
Yeah.
You didn't get so fond of him that you didn't want to get rid of him, kill him.
Well, we had to do that anyway, but we never. He didn't make good enough meat anyway.
Oh, I see.
He was neither good veal and good beef. He didn't live long enough.
Well, we've kept you too long.
In the Union, Maine.
Oh, I see. Right, this is true, isn't it? What were the summers? I don't want to keep you, but what were the summers like in the old days? What were the summers like in the old days? Would people go away or would they stay?
I think people always have gone away.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
I got a good deal.
Yeah. But we went away under different conditions. Now, for instance, we'd go up to Eustis, Maine, and you'd take the train out of here at 9:15 in the morning, and you'd get up there about 7:30 at night.
Yeah.
They'd stop at Strong in Maine, and the train crew would get off and eat supper, and it was a narrow gauge road.
Yeah.
And then they'd puff up to a place called Bigelow, where there's no railroad station or anything now, the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes Railroad. And then we'd take a Stanley steamer, or an old wreck of a Cadillac run by a man named Gross, and we'd ride up to Stratton and stay in a lousy hotel up there. And the next morning they'd get out a couple of buckboards, and we'd head off for Tim Pond in the woods. And we'd stay there a couple of weeks and trout fishing and...
really remote.
Oh yes, way right up on the Canadian border. That was one thing our family did. And
I think
we did other things.
Good many families would go off for about 2 weeks vacation.
Yes.
To the seashore,
Yeah, seashore or the woods.
When I went to Harvard, I can remember coming to Newton in the summer, and every house, the blinds would be full.
Yeah.
Right. Not every house, but
No,
many of the houses.
A lot.
Right.
Because Newton, I mean, we're so near the shore that everybody wanted to want to go there.
Now I can get to Maine in 3 hours and a half. And I first started, I used to drive down Sunday night, starting at about 5 o'clock, and have over a 6-hour drive to get home. That was hard work.
But it was more relaxing then than it is now.
Well, in Maine it was when you get there. Well, yes, maybe some house, but that's an awful long run.
Yes.
And the same way going down Friday night. Although we did go down on the train to Bath a good deal, and we met with a motorboat there or something of that sort.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there were boats too.
But in those days they had a parlor car
used to go to Maine
and a
by
diner
boat.
to Portland.
Oh, yes, good food.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Now, isn't even a train up to Portland.
Most people have maids that stay in the house and
What's that?
work. Most people have maids in Newton.
Nowadays?
Servants.
Maids.
Now?
In those days.
No.
Now.
In those days.
Yes, I won't say most people, but
Many.
Many did.
up and down the street here, everybody, there'd be a maid in every house.
Right.
Of course, there was a coal stove, and you had to put coal in the furnace.
More work.
And all the cooking was they didn't buy bakery bread, and they made their own soap. They did.
Not that.
Oh, your mother made soap too.
Yes, she did.
And there was the housework is entirely different. Now we've got a laundry with all kinds of gadgets down here.
You've got a new kind
in
of
the
maid.
kitchen. Yes, we got all kinds of services here.
Yeah.
Yeah.